Hello and welcome to the Dash News podcast. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my two fellow hosts, Joel Valenzuela. Happy Friday.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. You having a good Friday?
Oh yeah, I'm having a running around in circles Friday.
Yeah, it's been one of those days. Manic Friday, but Friday feeling. It's Friday, the weekend has landed.
Partying.
Which brings me to my next host, Brian, aka Mastermind. How's it going?
Excellent. Hey, what episode is it?
Well, I was just going to get to that. So today it is episode 103. I'm going to have to start just saying the digits like 103 because there's just been so many now. And on today's podcast, we have a very special guest. We're actually welcoming him back. It is Benjamin, aka Ben. You may know him in the community as DeltaEngine, but he is the CEO of DeltaEngine and the creator of the MyDashWallet. Welcome back to the podcast, Ben.
Yeah, hi guys. Great time to catch up.
Yeah, time has flown. The last time you was on, I think it was like podcast 77, which was back in November. And it doesn't feel like that long ago. And we was just joking, just saying like, well, it's just flown by. But it's been the bear market, which you think would be, a bad thing. But in terms of development and integrations and partnerships, it's just been like non-stop, just moving forward.
Yeah, even increasing this year. Like there's so much stuff in crypto. Like some projects are doing pretty bad and obviously had to fire developers. But I think other projects like really starting to add more developers again.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate you agreeing to come in on the podcast because you've been a busy bunny yourself. You've been doing lots of development work and congratulations. You just had a proposal pass for MyDashWallet to continue development. So there's a lot in this in terms of development because there's a lot more to MyDashWallet than I think the community realizes.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised by the amount of just Dash transactions that have gone through MyDashWallet. I think
you almost reached 250,000 of Dash now.
Yeah, like 250,000 Dash transactions through MyDashWallet. That's amazing. That's outstanding. So let's talk about the proposal, right? So we can get familiar. So those that haven't seen the proposal can understand a bit more about MyDashWallet, but things are to come on. So last time we was talking, you was talking about finishing development on some mobile applications, improving PrivateSend functionality. There was some hardware wallet stuff. And where Dash has been revamped quite a bit, you're having to adapt and kind of update that again. So where should we start? Where would you like to begin? Should we talk about PrivateSend, the applications, hardware wallets?
Oh no, not PrivateSend and Reddit.
Okay.
No, not on Reddit.
Not
the Reddit part. How about the deterministic masternode list part?
Okay.
So for everyone who's been living under a rock, which, no judgment if you have, Dash with version 0.13 is able to do PrivateSend mixing without running a full node or without using a full node, without like running one at home and then using it on mobile. So now you could say on mobile or like clients, you could now do it completely trustlessly. Now, just because you can doesn't mean you can. I don't think that it's not in the mobile wallets we have now. And it will be in MyDashWallet, at least according to the proposal you're getting funded for. So how difficult is this actually? Is it just, just copy and paste the little mixing thing? It's just the same? Or have you guys even looked into how that would be possible?
Yeah, obviously before we made the proposal, we checked it out in the testnet and checked how everything works with the long-living Masternode chromes, all the special transactions. So we had like plenty of issues already back in January when it went live in testnet, and then shortly after, like a bunch of explorers crashed that used Dash because of the new features. And then when it went live in mainnet, there was another bunch of problems. So because of fixing all that, we are pretty familiar with all the new dips and all these special transactions, how they work. We actually updated all the libraries for JavaScript, for PHP, I think, all the .NET libraries. And I think the hash engineering guys updated the Java libraries as well. So there's plenty of libraries for developers to use to directly integrate Dash, which is either some RPC calls, so just call to the node running on your PC or server, or it's like a full implementation like N Bitcoin, which has support for Dash as well. And there it needs to support basically every single feature that is like in the Dash core code in C++. It needs to be also put into the Java code or the .NET code. And since we did that, we were pretty sure that it's possible to do it. But like looking closer into it last month, it's really complicated. So maybe I can give a rough technical overview because like it can't really be explained in 5 minutes, because if you look at the dips, which are really nice to read, and there's lots of technical information, but they're really long. So you have to read like 20 pages of text, and there's only text with one image in between or something. So it's not easy stuff.
But the y'all do have PrivateSend on MyDashWallet on the Android app, correct? Just not the deterministic.
Exactly. So everything that we have been doing for MyDashWallet, which is just a clone of MyEtherWallet from early last year, since we added like PrivateSend pretty early, like in the first iterations in March, so it's probably about 1 year now, it's basically the user sends a normal transaction to a special node where we collect Dash. In the beginning, it was just one server with one node, and everything was done there, like all the tipping nodes, all the mixing, everything was done on the same node. But that obviously exploded because of too much usage, and we had tons of problems because when users were sending funds, then they randomly were mixed when they're not supposed to be mixed. So we separated them out pretty early, and basically from that node, it's sent into the normal Dash network. And basically all the masternodes available will do the mixing, the actual mixing. And once that's done, it's sent out to the target address. And then the complete transaction is deleted on the back end from our side, and we don't know about it anymore. And usually that process took maybe a few minutes. And since Dash 0.13, now that instant send is enabled by default, and we did it in the past even for small transactions, but now for all transactions, everything is instant. So it can be down to 1 second. So you basically send something to our node, it immediately accepts it, sends it to the next node, it mixes it, and while it's mixing, it's already confirmed and it's sent out to the target address, all within 1 second, which is pretty crazy.
How many rounds do y'all mix?
We had only, last time we spoke, it was only 2 rounds. We increased it to 4 rounds. And I remember Joel was asking me, oh, I want a setting. I want to go all the way to 16. And yeah, we had added it like a long time ago, I think in December, but we never made it available in the UI. So it's there, that setting, but it's always on the default 4. And in the new website version, which we can talk about in a bit, we have now settings so the user can basically choose how much privacy he wants, like going from 0 up to like maximum security. And yeah, we noticed through the forum post and also through support request, since we have like a support email when people have problems, and many people don't understand how privacy works. Like not just PrivateSend itself, but they don't understand privacy at all. Like it's really, you first have to explain them you shouldn't use like the same address as your sending and receiving address. That kind of defeats the purpose, and stuff like that. And so in the new website, we really want to make sure and give a clear guide for people that are not familiar with crypto as much, to give them a nice way to work with a feature like PrivateSend.
Interesting. So what else is new about this new website? Let's talk about it, because you've had a website revamp.
Exactly. Yeah, so we worked a lot on the back end. It's probably the longest time that we haven't updated the front end, because we now changed everything in the technology. So in the past, we were a clone of MyEtherWallet, and then we removed like 90% of it over the time. But what's left is still a bunch of JavaScript and HTML code. And our backend is pretty nice. It's all in managed code, and it has been refactored. There's tons of unit tests. And since we're doing quite complicated stuff from time to time, even the stress test, that's only possible if you have a solid code base. But on the front end, it's not that nice. And so we thought it would be a good time to revamp everything, rewrite it from scratch, make a much nicer design also. And we're using React for that, which is really a great framework. for the front end, and we can connect it just right to our back end, thanks to Microsoft releasing Visual Studio last month. So it's all new stuff. So it's the newest technology, and we like living on the edge, on the bleeding edge. And yeah, that's basically what we have been working on. And yeah, it will probably still take some time until we have the release for the new front end. And we're also working with a few other companies that also need a Dash wallet, and we want to all integrate it into one system so we can support everything from the same code base and not make ugly copy-paste stuff. Yeah, there's also some new features already in the current iteration that we have, which is like email notifications, which is pretty cool. So you can, on any Dash address, you can basically get notified whenever something comes in. So that's really useful for a shop, for example. If you have a shop and you have a QR code and you're just lazy and just have it printed out, then you can just set up this email notification. Whenever someone sends you Dash, you just get an email and you see immediately how much Dash you got, and you can use this basically as your shop system if you like. But it's also cool for users to just check like what's going on. Did my Dash arrive on the exchange address, or did when I send something via PrivateSend, when is it finally arriving? And for all this kind of stuff, it's really cool to have this notification feature.
Can you use it on any address? Like if I put my Masternode address, so if I get a payment, the Masternode, it'll...
Exactly. That's a good use case. You can, we also experimented around with HD addresses, but that's probably more like an advanced feature, because with an HD wallet, you can have a public address seed basically, and a private one. The private one, obviously, you shouldn't share, but you can share the public one. And from the public one, you can generate all the addresses that would ever exist in your HD wallet. And then you could use that one to basically get an email notification whenever anything arrives on your hardware wallet or on any HD wallet. But that's really an advanced feature, and probably we'll put it in the API, not in the front end.
Speaking of hardware wallets.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, man. On the website, they're like front and center.
Yeah, but that's our most important feature, because especially this year, we don't know what people are using, because everything runs locally in their browser, and we only see when someone sends a transaction or uses PrivateSend, then we see someone used it, and then we just increase the number. But everything runs locally on your browser. But we assume many people use hardware wallets and then use PrivateSend via our website, because that has been increasing a ton this year, up to 4 times.
So is the development and integration with the hardware wallets complete, or is there still development work still to be done? Yeah,
actually, there was an issue with Trezor in January, which we fixed about a week later. It just turned out it was some updates of some libraries. So we are not great fans of Trezor, but we have supported it, and it works, but the integration is not as nice as for Ledger. But actually for Ledger, we also work together with Dash Core to integrate like cool features in the Ledger Live and in the Ledger native wallets, and obviously for our website as well. But the problem is for Ledger, they had like an internal reorganization of everything, because same as us, they just started and working on cool stuff and added more and more features. And like 2 years later, they noticed, oh shit, like no one understands anything anymore. And they're basically currently in the process of making everything nice, have a much nicer developer API and everything, pretty much what Dash does and what every big company has to do. And the same is true for Ledger. And since we are still waiting for them to finish this process, some of the features that we wanted to add are currently on ice until they are finished and everything is okay from their side. And then we can finally update some stuff. And then we can even help them integrate stuff like instant send into their wallet and get immediately confirmed via like the new instant send auto feature, and maybe also in the future add the like private send directly into the Ledger wallet, into Ledger Live, which is pretty cool.
Is there hardware wallet support on the mobile applications, or is that something?
Yeah, it's kind of possible if you have like a special adapter for your phone. So basically, normally your phone is receiving data from USB, but there's also a special cable where you can use your phone as basically your host, and then the device as a client, and then you can connect a Ledger or Trezor. But like it's like almost impossible to use because it's really hard to set up. You need special cables and hardware, and like I'm not aware of anyone ever trying that except me. So it kind of works, but it's like not a normal use case. And,
hey, Trezor had a problem with special transactions. Did they ever figure that out? It's a while back. I'm sure they did. They must have, right?
Yeah, it was basically a bug similar to what we had when the Explorer started crashing in January. It was because like in the blocks, suddenly there is new special transaction appearing. And maybe I can talk a bit more about the technical side of special transaction because it's quite exciting and pretty important this year for Dash. But basically it means you have like a normal transaction and it has like basically some data at the top, and then it has some inputs and outputs. Like you all know it, how it looks like from like an Explorer. But the new stuff is at the bottom now. There's like an extra part. So there's an extra bunch of bytes that will only appear if the version number is greater than 3. And before it was version number 2. And the problem is if you have source code that doesn't care about the version number, it just reads sequentially the data. It doesn't know that there's now a new block of data coming, and it just reads it as a next transaction, which doesn't work because it's completely different data, and then it crashes. And it's like one of the problems from Bitcoin itself. And yeah, it's not so nice that Dash inherited that, but there is no data in this block that tells you how long it is. So basically you have to figure it out as you go on. And if like even a single byte is wrong, everything explodes. And so it's like a really like wonky system to get it working. But the fix is kind of easy. You just make an if statement. If version is greater than 3, then skip that block, and then it works. That's basically what everyone did, including Trezor. So now it works, but I'm not aware of them supporting any special transaction.
Have you been in touch?
When people are having issues getting their Masternode payments out of the Trezor, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
I talked with DMT. It's now good.
Yeah, it was basically people have. Yeah, it was just people having access, being able to access their Dash from their Trezor. So when they were going to the typical website, it wasn't loading. Now it's been resolved, but it did take quite a while. Yeah. I think for me personally, now I have to go to beta. The address than the original one for it to work. But yeah, of course, as Benjamin pointed out, you can use the DMT tool to access your Dash as well. So don't panic, everyone. Your Dash is fine.
Yeah, you can also use MyDashWallet. Like we won't recommend it for like Masternode's owners, but yeah, you can use it. The interface is not as nice, but you should be able to access all your Dash and like by the transactions of your payments coming in. It should be just easy to select those and then send them out.
Can I just like bring you back to something? So you mentioned about email notification, and beforehand we should say like you've done an amazing job. Last time I was talking about sending Dash via social media, Reddit, Twitter, and a few other solutions. However, have you spoken to the projects and teams in Venezuela and Colombia? Because I noticed in Colombia, there's quite a few merchants that are using just the QR code. So a lot of it's done on trust. So you'll go to these restaurants and you'll pay, but the merchant, it's all done on trust, right? Like, oh yeah, of course you paid. But I think if you had some kind of notification, so even if an email, you could set up an email so like something would buzz or like, like a light would go off, for a payment. But is there any other ways apart from emails that you could notify merchants? Because I think this would be a really good use case, because not every mom and pop shop, especially in Latin America, has a really nice enterprise POS solution. So they have to make deal with like a printed out QR code, and this might be a really nice solution to solve some of these problems.
It's kind of possible since like late last year, because we have a notification system already in there for all the tips. So whenever you get tipped on Twitter, Reddit, Discord, or Telegram, you get a notification. But you could basically misuse it as a shop. Just set up like your tipping account and then tell people, please send it to my tipping account. And every time you would get a notification, like on Twitter or Discord or Telegram. But that's probably not the best use case. It would be much nicer with this email notification feature. Then it's also compatible with any other wallet and any other system that you want to use.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have talked with some guys like last year, I think, of Venezuela, but like I don't really have a direct connection to any of them. So it's mostly if they have a technical question and I can help. But I'm not in connection with them. It's too far away.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you about special transactions? Because we spoke about it briefly before we went live. And I know in your recent proposal, you talk about integrating, having for MyDashWallet to have the ability to do special transactions. But I still think that's a big question mark for a lot of people in the community because they don't actually understand what special transactions are. Mm-hmm. Because there hasn't been a lot of information from the Dash core group about special transactions yet. They've been told that special transactions are a new feature and functionality that create new application uses, but there hasn't really been many examples. So could you just briefly explain what special transactions are and then follow up by saying how you intend to utilize them on MyDashWallet?
Sure. So basically on the technical side, I just explained it. We are all the bugs that we had on Treasure and the Explorers that were crashing because of this. So basically it's just the normal transaction, and then at the bottom there's like special stuff. And it's kind of easy because it's only two things. There's like a number, how much stuff comes, and then there's like a byte array, and which can be anything. So you can put in like text, or there could be like arrays of data or JSON data. So that's like, basically it's like a general system to attach any kind of data to a transaction. That's basically the idea of a special transaction. And if you look at the DIP, that's actually one of the shorter DIPs, so that it's like easily readable. And it explains it pretty well. Like you have just a transaction, and then you have some extra data on top of that. So a special transaction per se doesn't do anything great. It's just like extra stuff. And now all the other DIPs, like DIP 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, they all do cool stuff based on that. But it's basically a base technology you need to get everything else working. And so that's what we supported back in January. So I have to actually look at it because we didn't actually need it. Since it was fixed, it just works, and we didn't look back. But what's really interesting is basically all the stuff you can do on top. So like DIP 3 is the deterministic masternode list, and like the basis for all the quorums and like all the stuff where we can get like fixed lists. So the first two DIPs after special transactions are for masternode management. I think everyone that has a masternode noticed like last month when everything went live with 0.13 and everyone had to redo like their keys and voting key and all that stuff. That's basically all DIP 3 and 4. Like that's the whole new system, which has many nice, cool stuff. Probably you guys are even more familiar than I am. That allows like the whole Dash network to much easier just get a list of current masternodes and check if everyone is online. And if you do it some change, you don't have to restart your masternode anymore or send like extra special commands. Like everything is much nicer from like a programming and a management system. Only the setup is maybe a bit more complicated. And then the next few DIPs are really interesting because DIP 5 is about blockchain users. So it's a whole basis for the Dash Evolution username system. I'm not aware of anyone working on that. So it's probably mostly Dash Core that's doing the crazy internal stuff with Dash Evolution. So we are also waiting for them to release something, and then we just look at it and would like to integrate it as well into our wallet. And for us, the most important one is the DIP 6, which is the long-living masternode chromes. And then also together with that, DIP 7, which is all the signing and session system. And that's actually the more complex of the DIPs, because it's really like you have to read like 20 pages of text with like one image in between, but it's like just a desert of text. And it's actually not that easy to get it working. So when we first looked at it, it was like, oh, cool, piece of cake, we can do it. And then last month we looked a bit deeper, and it's actually quite a lot of stuff you have to do. So I even did on the last Bitcoin meetup here in Hanover, Germany, I did even a talk about it for half an hour trying to explain it. And after the talk, everyone was talking to me, hey, great talk, but I didn't understand a single word. So it's not easy stuff. And And so basically, maybe one of the things I can quickly explain is when you have this Masternode Chrome, basically everyone that's in that Chrome, which is just a list of nodes, basically, but everyone in that list of nodes had different connections to other members of that. So it's like a circle where everyone is sitting, like in a meeting. Everyone is sitting on a chair in a circle, and everyone has a connection to a few other guys, and everyone is in the same circle, but no one knows about all the other guys in the circle. So you maybe know your left guy and the right guy, but you don't know the 13 other guys that are there. And that's all deterministic. So it's like pre-designed how it works, and everyone can communicate safely, and you can cool stuff like voting. So the masternodes can just decide, this is like a good thing, let's chain lock this in and prevent like 51% attacks. That's like a really cool feature that is coming with 0.14, and it already works in the testnet. So actually we looked at it, and it's like a good example for us to make it working. And there's plenty of other stuff you can do in the future, like really cool stuff like storing data and deciding if there's conflict. Let's say one guy has some data that says you have $1 million and the other one says, no, you only have $5. Then basically the Chrome could decide on which data is right, and then you still get your $1 million, and not one guy can screw you up. And that's kind of important if you have like a decentralized database system, because anyone would have a copy on his masternode and can just easily modify it, and then it would basically break the whole system. So you need like a trust system to make it work. Right.
Before we went live, you said that you were looking to recruit a .NET developer. Do you just want to give an appeal in case there's any of our viewers that have that experience?
Yeah, actually, we are currently actively still looking. So we increased our team a lot. Last time we talked, we were just 3 guys, and now we are up to 8, and we're still looking for more. We are currently looking for mostly .NET developers. So anyone in the crypto space would be helpful, because we have still plenty of crypto work, and anyone for website. We now have found a cool guy that has 7 years of experience working with website, and hopefully he can help us out. And our new project that we are also, that's the main reason why the team was increasing, is we are working on machine learning and AI, which is like a really interesting topic this year. And it's like crypto from 2017. Like everyone is super excited, and there's tons of development going on, and really exciting stuff, especially from the big companies like from Microsoft, Google, and the likes.
AI machine learning. How are you going to utilize that with Dash? Like, come on, you can't just drop that and walk out the room. You got to tell us, what are you thinking? What's cooking?
Yeah, it's still a bit early. So basically what we are doing, we are building a new kind of robot that can basically watch what you're doing and then repeat it through a machine learning. Because if you looked at any robot or any system that is automated, it's usually some guy that has programmed a lot of stuff into it to make it work. And we want to try a different approach where we basically teach a machine like you would teach a human. So if you have a baby, you don't program it, you don't put like stuff in his head, but he just watches you and learns, and it takes a long time. But then after some time, and obviously through the genes, the baby gets really smart and can start to speak and do stuff like computers can't even do, even with 3 years or 5 years. Babies are pretty amazing, or children.
Wow.
So what are some examples of that?
You mean with our robot that we want to build?
Yeah, with the AI. So what exactly will it do?
Yeah, so currently we're really simple. I just built last week a simple system. So basically we have a laser pointer that's connected to a robot arm. So it's just a motor. And it's basically pointing randomly around. So don't look at it. And it's basically trying to find stuff. So currently there's a camera, and then it looks at what the laser pointer is looking at, and then you basically teach it, oh, there's an object here of interest, and then it learns to basically approach the object with a laser. And in the beginning, it doesn't know anything, it just does random stuff. And the goal is to get that clever enough. And once that works, we go to the next step, and then we have like stuff like an arm where you can, so a good use case would be a kitchen helper for elderly people. So like, let's say you still want to live on your own, but you can't really make your prepare your food anymore. And then you have a little helper that just basically you tell him what to do by explaining it in a natural human way, and then the robot repeats it and can basically help you do your stuff that's too hard for you. So that's basically the end goal in the long time.
So could we use your AI? So one of the things I hate is we was joking before about the internet thing, saying like the Dasher things, and this kind of ties into special transactions. So could you develop some like AI for like my fridge? So it has a camera inside and it can notice when my milk is running low, so it can send a special transaction to notify me to pick up more milk.
I think Amazon is already working on that. And probably if you watched Silicon Valley, you know the fridge from the Chinese guy that does pretty much that. Yeah, probably in the future, obviously you would connect crypto to that and just pay from your balance or something like that, make it all automated and maybe even trustless. But this kind of stuff is not really trustless right now. You would trust Amazon to do the right thing, probably.
Excellent.
But it's exciting stuff, definitely.
Okay, now on to the fun stuff. And I know this gets Joel's juices going. So this is good. We're going to be talking about this topic for the next 10 to 20 minutes. I can tell already. Okay. So let's rewind. So the last time we spoke, we did a recap because you'd just done a stress test.
Yeah.
And it was really exciting. So let's just talk about what happened previously, and then we can talk about what's happening next. So how do you feel the last stress test went? What did you learn? What things went wrong? Was you happy with it? And yeah, let's just start from there. So in my eyes, it was a success because I think we reached nearly 3 million transactions within a 24-hour period. But
yeah, I think
was there problems?
Great success. I completely agree. We had a bit of different goal. I think we tried to reach like 5 million or 4 or 5 million because we knew technically it would be possible to reach around 6 million. So we thought like, oh, let's go for 90% of that. But it turns out it's actually much harder. We did actually a stress test back in summer last year. It was really a small test of like a few hours. And then we added a feature into the Discord bot for everyone in the community to just send some Dash that gets then stress tested. And then some people went crazy, and like for a few days, we had plenty of transactions, and we reached like a few 100,000 transactions, which was back then a new all-time high for Dash in a single day. And in November, we basically topped that by 10x by doing like an organized stress test for 24 hours. And our main problem was actually when it was running, before we started a small test, like a few days earlier, and it was running great for 1 hour or maybe for 30 minutes or something. And we extrapolated from that, it should run great for 24 hours. But in reality, on that one small test that we did, we had a pretty, I don't know, but we probably had luck with the miners and with the propagation through the network that pretty much 90% of the transaction just got through. And when the actual test was running, like even in the very beginning, in the first half hour, we already saw like huge gaps between the blocks where nothing was happening. And then also many miners, especially Bitmain, I'm looking at you, they basically kept every block at 1 megabyte. So Dash was capable of doing 2 megabyte blocks, but Bitmain said like, no, we just do 1 megabyte. And like basically that destroys our whole goal, because the Bitmain, which has a pretty significant part of the blocks, just kept every single block to half, then we cannot reach our goal anymore. And but the other problem was the propagation problem, which we didn't figure out for a long time. So we did another test in January on the testnet, and last month on 0.14, when it came out on testnet, we did another test. And finally in that test in last month, we finally figured out together with CoderBlock and Ujin that the issue is actually not so much what we thought before, that there was an issue in the Dash code for the propagation and our nodes were not having enough connections, because this time we increased the connections to way like 10 times more, but it didn't really fix the issue. So the issue was more that the whole way that we were approaching is by chaining transactions together. I think I explained it in the last podcast, but basically what we did, we took a transaction And whenever the output is calculated, we use that output in the next transaction. And we do that 24 times in a row. And then we put everything in a single block. And basically, you have one block and you have 24 times, which is the limit. You cannot do more in Bitcoin or Dash, of the same transaction with the same inputs, like chained together. And then in the end, you have one final transaction. And basically, we just wait on the final transaction at the end. And if that is confirmed, we do the next chain. And the problem is sometimes it works, especially if you do it for half an hour. But if you do it for 24 hours, like it breaks. And it has huge gaps where you have to wait like 3-4 blocks until that's finally confirmed. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. So it's like a 50% thing. So we completely removed that now and did another stress test together with the Dash Core developers. And there it kind of worked finally. So the new problem is now that we have 24 times less transactions. So instead of going vertically, we now have to go horizontally, and we have to add tons of nodes, and each node has to process many more times of transactions in parallel, because each one is now only once. And that makes it much easier to then confirm it, but it also makes it like a much bigger problem, because we now have to emulate like millions of users using it at the same time, basically, on a few computers. But we are pretty confident that we get it working, and the next stress test is planned for 0.14, probably later after a few iterations, after like 0.14.1, maybe 2 or 3 came out, and probably like midsummer, late summer, so before Dash Evolution is out, we will do the stress test. And we already communicated that with Dash Core and have a pretty good timetable right now for that. So we know when we have to start testing. It should be exciting. And for that, we hope we reach closer to our 5 million goal and set a new all-time high, because our 3 million is still the highest amount of transaction any Bitcoin-based blockchain has ever done. So we're still the world record holders.
I thought the BCH did more or something.
Yeah, they didn't reach it. So they tried to like go for 20 million or something, but that was like 1 week before the whole debacle with Bitcoin SV. And after that, like, it was funny because the guys that worked on that now ended up on the Bitcoin SV side, and some other guys that worked on other stuff worked on that side, and then they hated each other and they stopped like working together. And I think they did like 3 or 4 stress tests, but they all aborted after a few hours. And there was also some problems because each of the chains had not enough hash power, and there was a big hash war, and like no one really cared anymore about the whole stress test thing, because everything was collapsing, because the whole market crashed back then, like 1 week after we had the last podcast.
I thought they got 5 million for some reason. That's what I was thinking. They had 5 million. What's our upper limit? How
about 6 million with the 2 megabyte blocks. So you can basically calculate it. Each block is like 2 megabytes. If you divide that by the tiniest transaction you can do, which is 192 bytes, and if you divide that number, you get like to 10,000, I think, around 10,000. And if you multiply that by the amount of blocks you have in a day, you get to 6 million. That's like not exactly 6 million, but like 5.9 million or something.
So you confident we can hit 5 million this next
Yeah,
time?
maybe 4 or 5 million. That should be our goal. So more than last time, and much nicer, smoother running stress test. And also what's important, during the stress test, we didn't have any issues. So there's no splits of the network. There were no people complaining, oh, my transaction didn't get through. Everything was still working smoothly, which is also really important for us. We would abort the stress test if suddenly the Dash network explodes, but it doesn't. So it runs very stable, and we don't have to worry about anything. Obviously, the load on the masternodes itself and any node running on the network will be increased. And we saw in the testnet, actually, when we did the test last month, many nodes crashed because of us. And people have to be aware and make sure that they have a bit more than 500 megabytes. Yeah, so, but we're pretty confident, like 99% of the network will be working just fine.
Yeah, okay. Joel's mic's not working, so let's test it for a minute. Joel, are you there?
Oh. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, we can hear you now, Joel.
We can hear you. Yeah.
That's good. Whatever you're doing, don't change it.
Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Right, Joel, did you have a question about the stress test?
Well, first is the microphone working finally?
Yes, we can hear you crystal clear.
Okay, fantastic. Literally unplug it, replug it in, works.
Yep.
No idea why. So regarding the stress test, as far as I've been able to tell, BitInfo charts shows that Bitcoin SV back in November got to 4.42 million.
Oh, okay.
At one point.
Maybe it was updated. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fine. We can still smash that.
Yeah, sure.
Smash for Dash, you know?
That's our goal. Yeah, that's our goal.
But especially if you get past 2 megabytes, I mean, obviously 2 megabytes is the limit currently. And at some point, I think it's a little bit silly the way, for example, Bitcoin SV decides to keep on increasing block size, increasing capacity for nobody. Like, I understand that like 5 million, for Dash to get 5 million daily transactions is a long ways away, probably.
Yeah.
Like regularly. But it's still, I mean, there's a giant gap, but it's still like, oh, let's just try to get 10 million. How about 20 million in a day, just so we can like swing it around, you know? It's like, no, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth all that effort. And I mean, unless that's literally the only innovation you have is, oh, more. But, you know, Dash has plenty of innovations as it turns out. So I wanted to, this is kind of a more abstract question, I suppose, but do you have a grander vision for what MyDashWallet is going to do? By that, so first let me preface, when you first came out with MyDashWallet, it just seemed like, oh yeah, it's a little web page thing. It's like the web page wallet thing. There were no good web wallets for Dash. All right. And then, okay, well now we got tipping. Oh, that's fantastic. That's like something everyone wanted. And then you got, okay, now we have instant and PrivateSend in there, and you can hook up your Trezor or Ledger. And then you start to, you get the mobile wallet, the actual mobile app on that. And it just like, then you got like the blockchain chat feature and then the stress test. Other than just do everything that's awesome with Dash, do you have a specific vision for where the project's could go?
Yeah, actually, the website was not our first idea. We just wanted to create a tipping bot, but back in December 2017, when the price was going parabolic, we thought like this is not really worth putting like a proposal up because it will cost less than 5 Dash. So basically, we wanted to prop it up and make it more pretty, and that's where the whole idea started for the website. And since then, we basically used it just as an experimental playground to try out different features, and whatever sticks, we work on that more. So it turns out this year, actually, what is really happening on the website is like plenty of people using PrivateSend. So in January, we had like, I think almost the amount of all of 2018 combined we had in 1 month, just on mixing activity on the wallet. So it went crazy. And while the total number of transactions has gone down, the mixing, so the PrivateSend stuff has gone way up. So it's currently like the majority of the transactions that are done on our website that are not from the bot or from the API, they are now PrivateSend, which is kind of interesting. Like we didn't know that. Like when we built the system last summer, almost no one was using it. It was maybe 5% of all transactions, and now it's like way above 50%, sometimes even 80, 90% in a day. So that's basically our approach. We want to provide many features, and then if it turns out feature 7 is like really great, then we want to focus on that. And that's probably continuing to happen this year as well, where we add like crazy stuff like decentralized mixing, and we will add some examples for the special transactions. We're also working on the BTC Pay server to have like an easy way to integrate a shop. If you have a website and want to have a shop where you want to manage everything yourself, so you don't want to use some plugin and trust someone else and only get like fiat for your shop, but you want to actually support crypto. That's a different use case, but some people want that. And we think that's like a cool way also to bring it forward. But we don't know if like feature A or B will be successful. So basically we're just testing it. And whenever something is really cool, we improve that system. So we spend like a ton of time on the tipping and a ton of time on the mixing stuff to make it work really well. And since that's now working pretty good and we didn't have to change much in the last few months, we are now ready to do some new experiments. And currently, we're still in the process of building the whole back-end and front-end system with the new technology that I explained at the beginning. To have a really cool website where we have React and everything is much snappier and faster, and it feels like a real application in your browser. So currently it's still like a website and it has some feel of like an application, but with the new system, it's like using Google Docs or Gmail or like Facebook, where everything is like really snappy and works really well. And I think many people will like that and maybe switch to the wallet that previously didn't like it so much.
Yeah. Can we talk about the mobile app? Because I'm not sure if we mentioned it in the podcast or off camera. I can't remember. So if we talked about this already, just tell me to stop. But like, someone in the community was asking today, like, when are we going to get PrivateSend on mobile applications?
Yeah.
And you can already do it on the MyDashWallet.
Exactly. Since October last year.
So you can do it. So there's an Android and an iOS app, correct?
Actually, you could do it since March last year if you just open the browser on your mobile phone. But there were some issues. You had to copy paste it, so the QR code scanner didn't work, especially on iOS. Apple doesn't allow on a normal website to access your camera. So that didn't really work well. And that was actually one of the reasons we built the native apps, to support this kind of stuff. So you can easily create a wallet, save it locally, and have access to your storage, use features like QR code scanning. And basically that's why we did the app. But the remaining app that is currently out on the Google Play Store and on the Apple Store, it's basically just the website hosted in a nice container. And actually, we have been working on a new version where everything is native. So it's more like the hash engineering wallet for Dash. So it will look pretty much the same, just with a bunch of extra features like PrivateSend and using like the tipping bots and cool stuff like that.
When? That sounds awesome.
First we have to finish our website because everything is basically designed in the new way. Everything looks much nicer now and it's really snappy. And once that works, we have a really nice system and design. Then we can just put it all in the mobile wallet. It's probably a bit more work. So I think this month it's mostly still the front end. And then maybe next month we start working on the Android, and so sometime summer it should come out. And maybe it makes sense to pull it out together with the decentralized mixing. So you can even on your phone, just use your phone itself without any connection to us or trusting anyone else, and do mixing directly from your phone with other people on their phone or on their full wallets.
So when do you think that could be possible? Of course, that's like been my number one. I got interested in Dash as a privacy coin back in the day. I was living off of Bitcoin and stuff, didn't really, but I was like, oh, that's one of those that could do that. And that's like one of the main reasons I got into Bitcoin as well, is just financial autonomy and so it's a huge thing for me. So apologies if I'm pestering you about when is it? It's technically feasible now, but you are going to wait for, what is it, version 14?
Exactly. So we currently take an approach which is a bit unusual for us. Basically, we wait until it's on mainnet and it's working, and some people have started doing stuff. So we don't spend so much time figuring out stuff that no one has ever worked on, because that's really time consuming. And so that's basically our approach. So it will take a bit longer, but we're still confident that till summer, so maybe July, August, we will have a release both on the website and on the mobile wallets that will make it work. If it works earlier, that's fine too. It's a bit more complicated because of the whole system I explained earlier, to make it all work. Because we only did it on testnet on a really special case, to make it really work on mainnet, that it works always. It's probably a bit more work, and probably I have to even ask Dash Core, oh, this doesn't work, can you help us? Or maybe we find a bug because no one else used it yet. There might be some delays because of that.
Yeah, so how would that work at a mobile wallet? Would it just be like as in, I'm talking about the user experience, not like how do you accomplish it? Would it be just like the Dash Core wallet right now, the full node wallet, except just the same thing? You hit mix and then it starts mixing, and you just decide on an amount to mix or something, and then just start setting, receiving.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, keep going.
Yep. I think it's important, at least for us, to explain it how it technically works, because we have to derive from that what the user experience is. Because if you just want a nice user experience, you basically just log into your exchange, click a button, and send it somewhere. But then you trust 100% the exchange. But you could have the nicest features. Everything could be instant, everything could be private, but you have to trust someone else. And with MyDashWallet, we have currently an in-between thing. So everything runs locally in your browser, but for certain parts, like the privacy, you have to trust the collection node that we have set up. And so that's not super nice. And the nice way, currently, the only way to make it work, as you explained, is in the full node, where you just put some Dash into your node, you click a mixing button, and then it gets mixed. And then you have mixed inputs you can use later for spending privately. And obviously, if people misuse it, like the guy on Reddit pointed out on some of the transactions he looked at, then it doesn't work. So if you use the same input as the output address, then it doesn't matter how many times you mix it. If you use the same amount coming in and out from the same address, people can just estimate, okay, that's probably the same address and same coins. So we want to explain it a bit better. So what we actually want to do on the website and on the mobile wallets, which is pretty much the same, it's just a different interface to it, to have like a normal Dash balance. And then there's a special PrivateSend balance. And that's initially 0. And if you just click on it, you can just say, oh, I want to make everything private. And then your phone will basically start working in the background and making everything private. And that's the only thing you have to do. And next time you send something, it's automatically private. You don't even have to think about it. Or alternatively, if you don't want to do that, which is also a possibility, if you maybe just got Dash and don't want to wait, you can just send, when you send, you click a special checkbox. I want to do either trusted PrivateSend, so the old way, or I want to do my own mixing on my phone. And then it will say this will take approximately, based on the phone and based on the amount that you have and the number of inputs that are needed, this will take 8 hours or something. And as long as your phone is on and has power, it will keep crunching and doing the mixing. But obviously, if you turn your phone off, or it lost connection or something, you're driving into a tunnel, then it doesn't work anymore. And then the mixing stops and will resume next time it picks up connection. So it will definitely take longer on a phone, because the phone doesn't have a stable internet connection, than on your desktop wallet, but it still would be possible.
So here's a question on that. First off, to sort of give my opinion on the UX of that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's all trustless, except you have the trusted option, probably what would be, which by the way, in some way, shape, or form, please keep the trusted option available for no reason other than more mixing partners. It makes mixing go faster on everyone. Mixing used to be, Mark remembers, used to mixing Mondays, where we just, on every Monday, we just like mix as much as we could to keep the network going. There were actual bounties to do that. And now no one needs to do that anymore. It just works pretty fast because of that. So here's the UX idea. So you have just click to check PrivateSend, send with PrivateSend, and it just always sends from your own mixed balance. Except if you don't have enough, it just says, not enough inputs. Do you want, not enough mixed funds? Do you want to use the trusted solution instead? And then
so you still have the choice.
Yeah, only when you don't have enough to do it yourself.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So
we have to think about a bit about it. But basically, it's either you click the button on the top to make it always, or when you send something, basically you kick off the process and then it starts mixing until it reaches its goal, which could be either everything or the amount that you send. And then it delays the sending by that amount.
Now, regarding mixing, is this energy intensive on a phone? Like, are you going to be draining your battery? Or is it?
So it's basically when you watch a movie, you have to download lots of data. But what actually is draining your energy is keeping the screen on, because that takes all the energy. But if your phone screen is off, and obviously you're still connected, so you take like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times as much if it would be idle and without Wi-Fi and without Bluetooth and all this stuff. It still takes more, but it still should probably run like 80 hours on a normal phone. So it will drain it a bit, so people can, if they don't want it, just turn off the app like any other app, and then it won't mix anymore. But maybe if they have connected it to a power source, then just use mixing. Maybe we'll add an option for that. If connected to power source, then always mix or something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Now, here's the other question on that whole mixing part of PrivateSend. Would it be possible for me to run MyDashWallet on my desktop and have it mix, but link that to the mobile phone? So that it's the same balance, the same actual wallet, but it's just that the computer's doing the actual mixing, and then it just like runs that overnight, and then I can actually like turn on the balance on the actual phone.
Yeah, we added that feature late last year. There was like an add your own node button on the website. It's still there, but we never actually integrated it in the front end. So it works on the back end. So basically you just put in an IP address, and then the website can connect to that IP address. The problem is you basically would have to run the whole MyDashWallet backend on your computer, and you have to open certain ports, and it's really complicated. And we didn't find an easy solution for that. So maybe via the decentralized mixing, we don't even have to do that, and basically scrap.
Yeah, of course. Which, by the way, for those who don't know, that's how every single privacy coin or coin with advanced privacy features except Dash works right now.
Yeah.
To where you absolutely need to trust a node. And so what you can't, so for example, if you use Monero, which back in the day was the only Monero light wallet, now there's a bunch.
Yeah.
And some of them still use Monero nodes, but that's a different story. They would have all your review keys for every single person through that. So they would basically be able to be honeypotted. You'd have to trust them. And it's a lot less of a thing because there's more options now. But also what you can do if you're a hardcore person, which, let's be honest, if you're using Zcash or Monero, using the privacy features of Zcash, right? You're a hardcore person. Like this is, you're into this stuff. You can run a node at home and then direct point that to your mobile wallet. So then it is kind of trustless because you're trusting yourself. It's just an extra step involved. But as far as completely trustless, Dash is the only one that's able to do that now. Of course, there's no example in the wild of that yet. It hasn't actually been implemented, but it is going to be possible. And where's it going with that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, about the privacy thing. About so if you have, say, 5 Dash in your mobile wallet, so you send it to your mobile wallet, you receive 5 Dash there, and then you mix it for like 2, 4, whatever, a low number of rounds, and then you send the whole 5 Dash out of there. That might not be the most private way of doing things. You probably want to do, first off, like I always do 16 rounds. I always did 8 when that was all I could do. Now I always do 16, just what I do.
Yeah.
But also what they found with cluster intersection attack research papers is if you receive the inputs, if you receive it in more than one different transaction, and the more the better, the less easy it is to actually figure it out. So for example, if you take like 3, 1 Dash, 1.5, and then 2.5, and then you like mix all that and then send it out in a few different transactions or whatever, it's just really hard. Yeah. Really hard. Like no one's done it yet, really, as far as I know. So if you're using, so first off, you pre-mix your whole balance, right? You pre-mix your entire balance, and then you send out a little bit of it to like buy coffee with, and then you receive some extra ones. You still have a big balance to do, but then it starts mixing the extra little unmixed balance. Yeah. And you start spending this down, and over time this becomes available. So then you never have to actually wait for mixing. But in the added benefit of that is it's going to be much, much, much more private by just using it, not intentionally, or I'm going to mix this big pot and send it out. You're just taking it in, mixing it, sending it out in small transactions, in and out, in and out. You're always be mixing. So I'm very excited for when that's a thing, and I'll be only using my Dash wallet.
Yeah, actually, you explained it really well, because I think that's the way you explained it. That's the whole idea of PrivateSend, and people don't use it. Like some people, obviously, all the old school people use it that way. But that's the whole point, that you have a balance that you pre-mixed, and then you use only parts of that balance to spend for stuff. And you even make sure when you click the PrivateSend button in the full node wallet, you make sure that you only send from your denominations that are like common. So you only send out amount like 1 dash, like 0.1 dash, 0.01 dash, and so on. And that makes it impossible to trace. But because if you send some like 50 dash in, 50 dash out, which was what the Reddit post said, then it's kind of obvious what's going on. But if you send 50 dash in and any amount less than 50 dash out, or even more than 50 dash out, you can't really say for sure like what's going on. And what I explained is it's like really the use case that you mix some funds, and whenever you need something, oh, I need to buy something here or there, maybe you have to increase your mixed funds, but basically you spend whatever the amount is needed, and it's usually not the exact amount that you have. That would be crazy to spend everything, like make your bank account empty and spend everything. Like no one does that.
Yeah.
You spend like in certain amounts.
Now the other bit on top of that, sorry, I just geek out over PrivateSend sometimes, but another bit about that is if you send more than 10 inputs, it could also make it easier to look at. So you're supposed to keep it under 10. Again, that's really granular. And like I use coin control when I do, and just like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But it would be interesting, and to change that would be a user experience nightmare right now, is in to actually make a wallet that limits that. But because say I got to pay an invoice, say it costs like $10 worth, but like $8 worth is 10 inputs because of like the way it's the inputs I have. And so it's not as private. You can't quite just say, no, we're cutting you off. You can't do that. Or if you send an 8 input transaction, then send a 2 input transaction to finish out the payment, then it's like 2 payments equaling this exact amount to the exact same address. It's still not as good. But what about with evolution? Now we get into, and this is a great segue also to usernames and stuff like that, contact lists in MyDashWallet in the future. But what you could do, say I'm paying at StayDashy, right? That's his username, is the evolution username StayDashy. I want to pay him 10 dash. 6 dash has 10 inputs though. So what I could do is, what you could do is have a wallet that automatically caps it at 10 inputs. So I send it, and instead of, I said send 10 dash to StayDashy, it sends 6. And then requests a different address from his XPub key, right? And then sends the next one to the other address. So he receives it in 2. But just goes does it just does it in 2 transactions instead of 1, but does it automated. So the user still experiences the very, very best privacy that we can do right now, right? I mean, obviously it's a constantly evolving game, but it just, all they have to do is just like privately send this to at StayDashy, and it just does some magic behind the scenes and makes it way better.
You could even use it like a random amount here. Like let's say you want to send 10 dash to Mark, then you basically get a randomizer, which you don't even control, and then it randomly sends like 1 dash, 2 dash, 3 dash, until finally it reaches 10 dash and stops. And no one would know like what's going on there because it's completely random. So you don't even have to control it. Yes. Actually, what's funny, the current implementation of MyDashWallet, when people send away a lot of dash, so currently I'm just looking on the website, there was not some guy that sent like 500 dash. So some people are crazy. And because there's not 500 dash available on the different mixing nodes, what happens, especially when 500 dash mixing is now reached, on whenever that happens, so it probably will take some time. It says currently 2 hours, 20 minutes. Then basically it will take from whatever nodes there's dash available, and basically merge it together and send it out in different transactions. So basically that guy will receive probably 150 from here, 217 from there, and then the remainder from here. And so already it looks like pretty strange because you're receiving 500 dash, but you're getting multiple transactions. And it doesn't happen for smaller transactions. So obviously we don't want that feature because we have to pay for every single transaction. But obviously, yeah, in the future. So the idea was we have like a slider where you can go from 0 privacy to like pretty crappy privacy up to like trusted privacy, and then crazy amount of decentralized mixing privacy up to like 16 rounds. And basically the user can decide, I want like none of it. I want to have the cheapest transaction possible, or I want to have some middle ground, or I want to go crazy and want to have Joel like 16 rounds, super nice. privacy. And then in that mode, maybe you can even drag it further and say 16 rounds plus special random feature to send like random amounts to the address to make it even harder to like. For us, it's no problem. It's like probably 5 lines of code to change it. We just have to make a nice user experience so the user can basically choose whatever he wants. And also we noticed many people just don't understand it. So we need to explain it much better. So we thought the mixing feature on the website is mostly for people really familiar with crypto, but it turns out many people use it like directly from exchanges, or it's really strange. They use it like from Tor addresses, but then they do everything wrong that you can do wrong with Tor. So you can still kind of trace them back, and it's really strange. Maybe we can give some like best practices if you want to stay private, what you should do. Like don't send from an exchange directly. Maybe send it to an address first, and then from there send it on. That makes it much harder already to track, and so on.
Yeah, we probably need an updated article. Hey, I was looking at your proposal here. I saw something about swap Dash for Bitcoin, BCA.
Oh, yeah.
Is that live or is that coming, or?
It's actually live on the website for like half a year, but it's like really ugly, and it's currently working in the Discord bot. I think it's even working on Twitter and Telegram. So basically you can just type in swap, and then you say, I want to change 1 Dash into Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum.
Oh.
And or the other way around, you can just deposit Ethereum and get Dash for it, basically. And we want to make a nice interface on the website for that, but that's basically had been put on hold since all of the redesign. So we will add it sooner or later to the new website, to the new system. And
what are the fees? Are the fees just, what are the fees on it?
Yeah, we take 0 fees. So we just use a service, and whatever that service currently has, I think it's a spread between the ask and the bid on the exchanges that the service is using, but it doesn't take any fees, and we also don't take any fees. So whatever like technically works it's been used. Like we thought about in the past using even Shapeshift and other similar things, but now with all this know your customer crap, we basically said like, oh, we don't want to go into all that mess, and just use a service that we currently have, and that works fine. And it's limited to small amounts, so we currently have it limited to up to 3 of any coin, and that works fine. So with higher amounts it also works, but there's always problems, so we just kept it.
So no KYC, no AML on it?
No, nothing. Just works.
I'm still thinking about the native app, and I'm just not concerned, but I'm kind of anticipating by Joel's excitement that we may find ourselves in a situation that my understanding is that the MVP of the DashPay DApp will not have PrivateSend functionality. So are we going to find ourselves in a situation where like all the OGs start using MyDashWallet if it has, you know, with the native app with the PrivateSend functionality? Because for a lot of people in Dash digital cash, the digital cash bit is PrivateSend, because that's the fungibility part. So if MyDashWallet delivers on that native app and has that PrivateSend functionality, I think the majority of people, you know, especially a lot of the old cats, will want to use that as opposed to the DashPay DApp that they've been waiting years for. Wouldn't that be ironic?
But I still think the DashPay app, once it's out, it will be open source, and then anyone can just use it and, for example, just plug our API in, or maybe we just update it ourselves, or maybe Dashcore does it together with us, something like that. And it probably will get it sooner or later. Like, I don't know what the feature set is. So I'm currently more in the 0.14 stuff, so I'm deep into that. But the outlook that the higher ups have, I'm not so sure like about the next few releases after that. So we currently take a wait and see approach, and whatever comes, we happily integrate it.
That does, from what I've heard, the DashPay app will be extremely not targeted at us. It'll be very targeted at the average non-crypto user person. And if we don't like it, that does not matter at all, because the features will be implemented in parallel to the Android and iOS apps as well. So you'll be able to use Evolution usernames and contact lists and stuff on your just regular old wallet. You'll never have to touch the Dash Pay wallet. In fact, you may never. And so with like usernames and contact lists in MyDashWallet, for example, that would further just eliminate the need to go over to the new thing, but you're still using Evolution, and that's the big part. Now, on that thing, that reminds me, we did get a question a while back from one of your comrades in arms from Deutschland about is there any plans or ability to integrate Fiat gateways into MyDashWallet?
We did a proposal 2 years ago, and we actually had a working Fiat gateway using Stripe back then. And funnily enough, months after that, Stripe banned our whole account, even though we had been using it for like 7 years or something. And it's still disabled, so it's still not possible. And it's also in Germany in the past, it was really complicated. So you had to have basically a banking license, which cost like, I don't know, 100,000 euros or something to be able to provide any Fiat gateway stuff. That has changed a bit, so now it's not so cruel anymore. So actually many ATMs are now popping up in Germany. But like due to time limitations, we didn't even look into that anymore. So if in case we would support it, we would just use any existing provider. So for example, Uphold works great, and they have an API, and we could just easily plug it in. I think there's still a button for Uphold when you log in. There's like a button, do you want to buy Dash? You just click on it, go to the Uphold website, and then you paste your MyDashWallet address in there, and then you have bought Dash with Fiat money. So it kind of works already, could maybe be a bit nicer in the future. What's really nice is the Android Dash app, which has integrated it really well. So if there's demand for that, we would probably just copy paste that implementation and do the same in our wallet.
Yeah, I saw something on the proposal about tipping via an emoji reaction. Is that?
Yeah, that was something from, I don't even know who was requesting it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was some crazy idea. Basically, when someone makes a smiley face under your post, then you can mark that post as whenever someone uses that smiley and increases it, basically you make a tip to that person. So basically a good example would be you have some post in Spanish and like half the community doesn't understand it and wants to have a translation in English. And then some guys come in and explain it really well. And then they get basically a tip whenever someone clicks on the flag for English. And whenever a user has a tip account and he clicks on it, then he spends like a small amount, 0.1 or something, probably customizable by the user. And basically you can tip around by just clicking. So you don't even have to type in tip this guy. So you just click a few buttons and you automatically tip people.
Could you create a solution for me for Dash News so that whenever we have a new article, if people choose to share it on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, if they choose one of those options, they get like a micro payment to say thank you for sharing it out?
Yeah, cool idea. We just need to figure out when the user does it. So if you click an emoji, it's pretty easy to track in Discord because it's just a call and the bot can basically check if a user clicked on it, and if it increased the number, then we can check which user did it. Does this user have an account? And then we can automatically tip from that user to the poster or the other way around.
Interesting. Well, yeah, definitely write that down, because if you can come up with a solution like that, we've been trying to come up with ideas for a long while, because we really need to mobilize the community in sharing out the news. It's great, all these updates from yourself, the news articles from us, and the development updates from Core, but it's really the community that needs to be the foot soldiers to get it out there, to raise that awareness, increase that exposure. If other publications and external media are going to pick up these stories, and if we can help facilitate that by offering something in return, as a transaction to say thank you, I think that would go a really great way to helping Dash move forward, take one step beyond what we're doing right now. And that's what we all want to do. We want progress. We want to move forward. So any ideas, and in the chat as well, if you've got any ideas that how we could incentivize you to propagate Dash news and Dash core group updates more, let us know, because we're all ears and we would love to explore opportunities. So we're open to suggestions.
Yeah, is that emoji rag? Is it on y'all's roadmap, or is there?
I think the history command was done in March, and I think the emoji stuff, our bot dev did it also. I think it's working on Telegram via some strange stuff. I think it's already integrated into Discord, but I think nothing happens. So it just records it, and we still need to provide some interface to the user to let him set up, like, I will always, if I click a button, I want to spend like 1 millidash or something like that. I think that part is still missing, but I have to speak with a bot dev, like what he did. Because here in my list, it looks like it has been implemented, but probably not tested yet.
You know what'd be really cool? YouTube. As we're using YouTube right now to broadcast this video stream right now. But I know we spoke about tipping with YouTube last time, and there were some problems.
Exactly.
But I think just being able to tip people in the chat, in the comments, like anything, it'd be so useful. I know people talk about, you guys should enable super chat, because you can now donate to people. If I think about, obviously, we're already being paid by the blockchain, so I don't want people to tip us, especially with Fiat. That'd be a big no-no. But what I would like to do is actually the reverse. If people comment on our videos, Joel's been doing lots of great video interviews recently. People make a great comment. I would love to be able to reward that person with a tip and say, like, great comment, fantastic, thank you for contributing. Has anything changed, or is it still problematic? I think you said it was to do with it was the YouTube API. It was the problem, right?
Yeah. So actually, we have this kind of request all the time, like, oh, can't you integrate it into Facebook? Can't you add it to YouTube, even DTube, and on Twitch? There's many streamers, like, they usually get tips as well. Why don't we have this? Like, and if some guy in the community, for example, for Twitch, Zidem from the DACH here in Germany, he started working on an experimental Twitch feature to integrate MyDashWallet directly into Twitch. Because as I said earlier, we have an API, and if you basically just call it, anyone can do it. It's just like the amount of work required is just way too much for the benefit. So it doesn't really make sense to spend like a month of work to get it all working when then later 5 people use it. So it needs to be something like a Telegram or Discord where thousands of people are using it, and then it's really worth the effort. But sure, in the long term, probably sooner or later, we will probably add that as well. Currently, it's still a bit hard to do, and we have so many things on our plate. Once we have less things, we can maybe talk about that again. It's a great idea, certainly.
Twitch, yes, I would love to see that.
Cool,
yeah, because even then, I mean, I'm sure there's a leaderboard. You can tell I don't watch it, but I'm guessing there's top streamers. So even Sky would be great, and they'd be like, "Oh, you just tip me some Dash," and we can say, "Yeah, now you can go to giftcards.dash.org and buy some stuff, or buy some more games, more streams, and more content."
Actually, I was explaining the same to Dash Core, and they were really exciting, and they were working on their own on getting like Twitch streamers and gaming websites and stuff like that. Like interested in Dash as well. So I think there will be some development this year in this space in general, because I think that's like on the roadmap for Dash Core to have like the whole gaming and even have maybe in-app purchases in games going towards crypto, and Dash is like a perfect fit for that. It has low fees, it works instantly, it makes total sense for let's say I want to have the super sword and I just pay like 0.1 Dash and then I get it instantly. That's like a great feature.
Well, you're a gamer yourself, aren't you? I remember last time I was talking, you not just a gamer yourself, but you've got a bit of a gaming development background. So we've been talking about special transactions. Well, you've said you got your hands full with MyDashWallet, but with Evolution and dApps, and I'm sure you've seen what EOS has been doing with their gambling applications. They've got so many different gaming applications. It doesn't seem many people are using them. They look great, but I mean, you must have so many ideas that you could probably create from that. And as a gamer yourself, you can identify what would work. And I don't know whether, they talk about different clans and groups you can get together. I think that is the Dash community in itself would be fantastic. And you mentioned Discord. Now I don't have Nitro, so for those that are listening, if you're on Discord, if not, really cool. You should be. But if you pay for that, I know Brian does. He loves it because you get the additional emojis and stuff, and you can do all bells and whistles. But I think it's about $5, right, Brian? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's $5 a month, but with that $5, you get access to loads of games as well.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't it be great if you could create a game on the Discord, whether it's a strategy game or whatever, and people can pay that Nitro fee, and then you could have your Dashbot, but actually working in the game and stuff as well. Like, there's so many things that we could do, and then that would really encourage people to come in Discord to play the game, chat, communicate, and it'll be like full circle. It'll be perfect.
Yeah. When we finally have some time and do go back to our game, because we still have a game in development, we certainly will try to integrate Dash. But one of the problems is if you go to Apple, Google, or Steam, so Valve, all of them will pretty much ban you if you start going around their whole payment system. Because every time there's a transaction on like Apple Store or on Valve, they basically take a big cut. So usually 30% goes right in the pocket. And if you use crypto, obviously 100% goes into your pocket. And that's currently a problem. There's some things where they don't care. So for example, Twitch, when you put a QR code under your Twitch stream and people just tip you Bitcoin or Dash, no one cares. So it might be like that it works for a while, but probably sooner or later, the big guys will basically open their hands and say, no, either you pay us or you're not allowed on our platform anymore.
Well, it's probably worth exploring the Discord games, because even if you made like a poker app, because we've had like, we can make it rain with the bot. But can you imagine if you had a game where I could say, all right, Joel, let's have a game of poker. We can go in there and then we could both put up like, a dash or 10 dash, and then we could have a game and then winner takes all. There's so many different things that you could do, and I think people would actually really enjoy that. So if someone
that sounds like a small scope project that you could do even as a test run before doing like a real big game where you have multiple years of work into it, because like a little poker app like with some simple graphics, you probably could like do in a month or something, and then integrate Dash into that. That's really nice. And I think many people in the crypto space would also like poker, because there's lots of gamblers and crazy traders, and all of them would probably like poker as well.
Yeah, excellent, exciting times. Evolution, there's just no limits.
Yeah, it would be a great use case for Evolution, like doing poker directly on the Dash Evolution platform. That's a nice idea.
Especially with your username, you could have, especially if you're uploading the picture and stuff to Dash Drive, you'd have your little profile. You could have, it'll be amazing. I'm getting super excited.
Evolution.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we know gaming is a very big use case that the Dash Core Group biz dev team are focusing on this year. So I'm sure there's going to be more developments and integrations coming. So that seems to be the hot buzz thing this year. So there's lots of things going on. Mm-hmm. Have you checked out like Engine Coin and things like this? Yeah. And I know we always keep things like Dash heavy, but you must be, as a gamer, looking around at other solutions. How do you think Dash compares in terms of applications for gaming with Dash and Dash Evolutions and dApps when it comes to other solutions like Engine Coin, which I think just enables maybe like mobile apps to create items? That's my understanding.
So as a gamer, I'm not convinced. Like especially in 2017, when every single blockchain was announcing crazy stuff, and like 90% of it wasn't even true. So I remember like Minecraft. Oh, we have now Digibyte integrated into Minecraft, and it was like a single server where some guy just put up like a single bot, and you could like pay him in Digibyte. Like, it's completely useless. So I think most gamers are not even aware of. So if they know crypto by itself, but they don't know crypto because of some game or some integration, because there's zero. Because I don't think you will even see it on the big publishers. So EA, Blizzard, Valve, and Google and Apple and all those, and even Amazon, like they have zero interest integrating like a decentralized blockchain and going around their whole payment system. That would be suicide for them. So obviously they don't want that. So it will probably take some time until some indie game does it and really does well. And then obviously other people will copy it and see the benefits. But it's not going to be overnight. So I think it will take a few years until more and more people will use it, because it's like a perfect fit, but it's still too early.
Well, I know we're running late on time, but just before we mentioned the after party, in the last few after parties, I've been getting an education myself about gaming, because that's a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And people are talking about this game called Fortnite. Apparently, the kids are loving it, and they've got their own
called Fortnite.
yeah, so it's a Fortnite game, and you can get your own tokens within the game. It's Fortnite specific, and apparently, like, kids are asking for their Christmas presents, their birthday presents, to get these Fortnite tokens so they can customize their character. So like
you know why? Because can you imagine having to get real cash and then somehow turn that into buying Fortnite credit? Like, all of a sudden it all clicks of why cryptocurrency is so valuable, because I just take in the word, boom, buy what I want. You don't have to be like, okay, well, do I have to give it to my parents? Like, could you please put the credit card number in? Why are you going to buy any more than that? You should be saving for college. And then just like, oh.
But imagine
I can take it, I can spend it. It's like, this is like crypto for them. They just like get it and can just spend it on what they actually want, and no one gets to tell them what to do. It's very financially empowering for the younger generations.
Imagine like an open source game. It would actually incentivize. We know people like to create content and get paid. On the previous podcast, Joel was talking about a game that he used to play, and he'll try and like customize the character's outfit. Can you imagine like an open source game where you could create like a clothing outfit and sell it for these credits, and then you could convert that back into Dash and actually buy stuff with it. So you could actually create stuff for games on an open source platform, whether it's a funky kind of like sword, like a He-Man sword or something. Sell it for credits, and then basically you get Dash. So by creating things, you can earn Dash, and that would be amazing.
Yeah, especially has been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, especially if you could imbue the item with like actual crypto. Like, this is the bit sword. It just like has like 4 Bitcoin in there or something, and you can just smash anyone.
Yeah, I just checked. Like, Second Life is now 15 years old, and they have their old economy, and they have like the Second Life gold or whatever. And basically, that's exactly what you can do. You can sell your coins on eBay or something, get fiat, and it's just a closed system. You have to completely trust them, and it's in a time way before crypto. But it's certainly feasible that maybe in 10 years there will be something like Second Life that's really big on crypto and like uses like a crazy amount of it.
Exciting times.
Yeah, let's wrap it up unless we got anything else.
Cool.
I'm good. Benjamin, is there anything else that we haven't mentioned or covered that you would like to announce to the community that we've missed out on? Or
yeah, maybe we should talk in a few months when the stress test is coming. Maybe as a second guest to the podcast, because I know you have many people lined up. Yeah, that would make sense. And then maybe we can talk about the new wallet and the front end and the apps and stuff like that once it's out, because it's still a bit early. And I think also the decentralized mixing would be an exciting topic over the summer once we finally get it working.
Yes, I'll be abusing it. I'll be buying so many coffees untraceably, just so many.
Good.
Excellent. Right. Well, finally, so it's MyDashWallet.org. If you want to download the Android application right now, you just go to the Google Play Store and type in MyDashWallet. Is there anything else? It's the same for the Apple Store as well, right?
Yep. Or you can just go in a browser and type it in on the phone. It works just as well.
Okay, cool. And if you've been inspired by this conversation on the podcast and you have some amazing idea, or you'd just like to ask Benjamin something, you can go to Discord, and Benjamin's handle is DeltaEngine on Discord. Is there any other preferred method of communication that you'd prefer as opposed to Discord?
I guess most people just write an email, but yeah, many people use Telegram, Twitter. I think Reddit not so much anymore, but Discord is also used quite a lot.
Well, that's perfect timing for Joel to take us out.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you enjoy this, you're a good person, and Evan blesses you. So we do this thing. First off, you got to like, share, comment, subscribe, all of those, by the way. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you smash for Dash, hit that like button, share it so other people can see it, because otherwise, especially, you can just take a piece out of this, like, oh, they talk so much about this on the podcast. It's great. You should listen to the whole thing. All right. Well, that too. And then leave a comment, right? Because we get some comments. I do look at all the comments on all the videos, all the podcasts, all the new videos that I do. And just make sure you do that. You get a lot of interesting insight. And guess what time it is?
After party.
What time is it? I mean, it's 4:32 p.m. Eastern time. But in addition to that, it's time for the after party, which is just like this, except up to, it used to be up to 10 people, but that was like moderately dashy. We need to be extremely dashy. So we can have sometimes, 18 was the maximum?
Yep. I think it's the record so far.
Yes. So we just do this. Except instead of 4 of us, it's like 18 of us casually talking around, having a drink, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Up until the wee hours of the morning, until I start to see some of my European-based friends start to see the sun come up in the background of their window. That's happened a couple times. So the way you get in there is you go to staydashy.com, which is the Dash Talk Discord, the best Dash Discord in the world, probably the best crypto Discord in the world, although I haven't been in enough to actually be able to talk that much smack confidently. But hey, come on. Go to staydashy.com, start asking around, hey, is the after party going? Where's the after party? You can tag me at the Desert Links, or more importantly, tag at Mark Mason to get to Mark, because he's usually around a lot more. And then they'll plug you into the party. You get to join it. We get to say, hey, what part of the world are you from? Hey, can you hear us? Hey, yeah, this is, you're already recorded. Can you put a shirt on? Okay, do you have a microphone? Okay, never mind. Just next time maybe. And then that's usually the initiation process for new users. But whatever, you get to join in, have a good time. It's fantastic. Go join the after party. Staydashy.com. Go there.
Excellent. Well, that was episode 103 of the Dash News podcast. I hope you found this to be...
This is in New Hampshire, Freedom Land. This is episode 103. Sorry, keep going.
I hope you found this to be informative. As Joel said, if you've enjoyed this, press that like button, smash for Dash. And if you would like to hear the audio version of this, tomorrow on dashnews.org, there will be a article posting with the video link, but also to audio linked websites such as iTunes, Podbean, all kinds. So all that goodness. So it's Friday evening. So wherever you are in the world, have a fantastic weekend. Stay positive, stay humble, but most importantly, stay dashy. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me. Stay dashy.